anytime, Mr. Producer.
Okay.
All right, here we go in 3, 2, 1. All right, guys, welcome back to another edition of the Tuddle Daily Podcast. This is one I usually don't do. I only do audio interviews, but with my male audience, I'm sorry, I had to put you on because I know that they would definitely like to see this one. So this is going to be up on my YouTube channel as well as my podcast. But my next guest is Tanya Fritch, and she's got a book out called Just the Tip. And I find it very, very interesting. Because there's a lot of these stories that I'm sure that the bartenders all have. And I can only imagine. I can't wait to get into this book. How are you today, Tanya?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. So what area of the United States are you? I mean, you don't have to say where. I'm not like asking for your home address or anything like that. But like what part of the US do you live?
North Carolina.
North Carolina. You've been there, born and raised? Tar Heel?
No, so I'm originally from Illinois and moved to Virginia throughout my teenage years, and now I've been here since I've been 21. So my adult life has been North Carolina.
So you kind of have picked up a little bit of a, North Carolina, South Carolina twang, that Virginia area. I think a little bit for, being born in Illinois and stuff.
Sure.
Now, tell people a little bit about your book. What inspired you to want to write this? There's a lot of people that have ideas for books and stuff, but what was your inspiration to want to do it?
Yeah, so I mean, I've always been into writing and reading. And I remember when I was 20, I wanted to write a book. And then I was like, what am I going to write a book about? I know nothing. I mean, I'm not skilled in one specific area where people are actually going to want to read about my life. And, fortunately, my life has been pretty boring in the sense I haven't had any, horrible tragedies or horrible, life lessons I had to learn in that sense. So I was like, anything I write about is going to be kind of boring. And then I'm literally at my job thinking about this. And I was a waitress at the time. And I was like, oh my gosh, you should just write about this. This is the one thing you know everything about. And the one thing that people are either going to bars to drink or they are working on the other side of a bar. So I figured everybody could relate to these stories. And I just started writing stories on my notepad when I was waitressing, anything funny that happened, crazy, weird. And I kind of collected stories for the last 10 years now.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm sorry about that. See, you got to understand, I'm in the process of building a studio. As you can tell, I'm doing the damn thing out of my Ford F-150. But my audience has been growing. I don't get phone calls all day long until I start doing interviews. And then everybody wants to start calling me and stuff. Now, the name of the book is Just the Tip. Now, your idea for that name, because I got to tell you, it's brilliant. The title alone is going to get people to be like, oh, I got to check this out.
Yeah, it was my idea. At the time, it was a phrase that was being passed around. I know when I was 20, 21, I worked in the industry. So a lot of the guy bartenders would be like, just the tip, it just became this thing.
It's a sexual innuendo, though. It is. And that's going to be, eye-catching. And I like the cover of the book as well, too. Now, is that you holding, the book itself? It is you.
It's like a mock version of me.
Okay.
So I kind of told the designer what I wanted, and she kind of helped me put it together.
Oh, very, very nice. So now let's get into this. How did you get into bartending? Because, I have worked with a lot of people in the service industry that there's a lot of interrelationships and stuff, like with servers and waitresses and cooks and everything down the line. So I can't even imagine some of the stories. But so what got you into being a bartender? I think you were a server first, correct?
Yeah, I actually started off as a hostess. So I went through everything.
What restaurant?
Ruby Tuesdays.
Oh, okay.
It was my first restaurant job. So, at that point, obviously, I'm just walking people to a table, and dropping them off and never having to deal with them again. And I used to, I was so bored with that job because, it can be boring. But my boss was like, hey, I turned 18. He was like, do you want to start waitressing? Which I was like, yeah, more money, of course I'll work for tips. And then I soon realized how I'd rather be a host in that sense because every table started sucking.
Yeah. Now let me ask you, as a host, like, do they share tips with you, or like, are you not getting anything?
No, you're not. You're getting an hourly wage usually. Sometimes places will give you like a tip out, so you might make an extra $20 on, on top of your night, but nothing. It's not required in most places.
Now, I've talked to a lot of waitresses and stuff, and I hate it. They hate it whenever they got to share tips with the rest of the other people. What would you prefer? Like, do you like to, kind of keep what you kill type thing? People always use that saying, like, or share tips. Like, what's the better version?
Waitressing, I prefer to keep my own tips because you're with that table for an hour sometimes. So you are really putting in the work to get your tip, based on your service and your conversations and your entertainment. Bartending, we always share tips, and I don't have a problem with that. I do high volume bartending, so we're all pulling our own weight. So I like that we're all pulling in the money, at the same time, because the more people we can get to, the more money we make.
Now, is it all do women bartenders, like for example, you'll get bachelorette parties that'll go to a bar and stuff, and of course a good looking guy is probably going to do very well in tips, but like, is it like ratio wise, do women get better tips than men?
I don't know. I think at some places that used to be a thing, I think more so, but honestly, we have some guys I work with and they have a lot of regulars that come in, guys and girls, and people want to bro out with them and they pull in really good money. Like I'm happy they're there with us.
So what is one of the worst tables, or like you busted your ass off all day long, and it's a big table, you went over the top to make sure that they're taken care of. What's the worst you've ever gotten stiffed on? Like, just gotten the absolute horrible tip.
Yeah, I actually remember, I feel like one of my tables, it was these four guys and they were from overseas somewhere. They were actually with another waitress when they got there, but they stayed for 5 hours. So the other waitress had gotten cut and she wanted to transfer the table to me. So I said, that's fine, I'm closing anyways. And she transferred it to me. Their bill was probably like $400 by that point. They just based on drinks. They weren't eating or anything, and they didn't quite stiff me. They tipped me $2 on
uh
400, and they were there 5 hours.
that I live in Central Florida, and we have all the theme parks in the Orlando area, and a lot of people don't know this. In other countries, they don't tip. It's not so when you get people from other countries and stuff like that, I'm not saying anything bad. It's just what they're accustomed to.
Yeah, and that's like something we're used to hearing in the service industry too. Like, in Europe, they don't tip. It's just included in, servers' wages. My response, maybe not the best, has always been they're totally capable of Googling our tipping policies before they travel. And I would do the same if I went somewhere, like I kind of don't like people using that as an excuse because if I go to China, I'm definitely going to Google practices there, how I should act when I go out to eat. Do I tip the bartender? Is it disrespectful if I do? I mean, just to make sure I understand their culture, So for them to blame it on, certain people in certain areas say, well, we just don't do that where I'm from. I don't know. I feel like that's kind of playing, you're just being cheap and naive. Like I don't like that.
When I was a producer for a nighttime radio show in Orlando at a FM talk station, I was a producer for Drew Garabo, and he worked for Darden Industry. Like he was wanting to go into like all the service industry. He wanted to become a manager, because a lot of people don't realize like you can make a very good career out of working in the service industry, especially in the Orlando area, because Darden, yeah, I think it's like Olive Garden, Red Lobster, all that type of place. I love their cheesy biscuits, by the way. But he told me, he said, being a waiter helped prepare him to be a broadcaster because it does help you with your communication skills and being able to communicate with people that might not be like the nicest people in the world, that you got to put on a smiley face or whatever it may be. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. Serving and bartending has helped me get every single job outside of that. I usually always have like a day job and my night job just because I'm a workaholic. But I would say it's prepared me for every job I've ever gotten. My interviews go so well because I'm able to communicate with them. And you'll be surprised because I actually I recruit people for jobs during the day. And you would be surprised with the lack of like communication skills and even just basic eye contact
Yeah.
that people provide. So
No, eye contact is very, very important when it comes to, making a connection with people. Now, I want to get into this. What single, dating, married? What is your status when it comes to that?
dating right now.
Uh-huh. Now,
um
all right. So go ahead and answer, and then I got a follow-up question to that. Sorry.
No, I think that's all I have for
Okay.
that.
All right. So like, has there, through your dating life, has there been like any jealousy because, you're there, you're serving, you're talking to guys, and I'm sure that they want to be able to like, make a connection with you. Has there ever been any jealousy?
No, actually, I don't think so. It honestly depends on the relationship. All the guys I have dated, dated me knowing I was a bartender. So I think that was never an issue. I don't think they thought they were getting into something that they weren't. The first guy I dated was actually worked in the industry as well. So definitely there was nothing, no jealousy on his part there. We knew we were like kind of flirting to make more money. So but yeah, no, I've never had a boyfriend actually comment on that. The biggest thing with dating for a bartender I've had is the schedule. They don't get to see you on Friday and Saturdays. It's hard to do like date nights or weekend getaways, things like that.
What's the best tip night?
The best
I
tip
mean,
night?
yeah, like for day, like what day is usually the best, in general when it comes to tips?
I would
Weekends?
say, yeah, weekends for sure. Usually Saturday nights for some reason. I think people are just ready to finish out their weekend strong. Sundays are really good too, actually, because you get a lot of service industry that comes out on Sundays. So your tips are always like tremendous, even though it's not as busy as a Saturday. I would say you actually make really good money on Sunday nights too, depending on what bar you work at.
What is the closing time for you guys up in North Carolina?
2 a.m.
2 a.m. Yeah, see, in Tampa, I worked in Tampa the last 10 years. I think Tampa is a little bit later. I think it might even be 3 or 4, maybe.
Wow.
And to get to that, I wanted to ask, like, there's a lot of problems with DUIs, people, drunk driving and stuff. Like, how do you determine? Because like, I see, I don't know how I feel about this. You're a server, like some people have higher tolerances and stuff. How do you make that determination? Like, and legally, can you be held responsible for over serving?
Yeah, legally you can be. I feel like it's a hard thing to prove, honestly, because they would have to say this was the last bar this person was at. We have you on camera serving him 20 shots in 1 hour. I mean, it has to be a lot of things for you. People bar hop. It's hard to tell what people's tolerances are also because they can be fine 1 minute, but maybe that fifth shot that they took at the previous bar hasn't hit them yet. And so you give them one drink, and I've served people one drink, and the next minute their face is down on the bar, and I'm like, what just happened?
Um, something else I wanted to ask you, you being a woman, do you keep an eye out? I know you stay pretty busy, but like people, maybe dropping it something in somebody's drink or something. Have you ever like seen that happen as a bartender?
I've not seen it happen like in front of me. I've had people come back to certain bars I've worked at in the past and say they think something happened because they didn't remember the rest of their night. I'm really good about watching out for honestly girls or guys. I know it sounds like guys are like, well, we don't get drugged, but sometimes they do,
Oh no,
you
I
know?
I did. I
Yeah.
did. And in Orlando, they were doing it to couples. I was going out with a girl that I was dating, and they were drugging the couples and waiting for them to leave, and then they would like rob them because they
Yeah.
would be out.
Yeah, exactly. So I always watch people's drinks. If I feel like, someone's hanging around that they don't know, I'm really good about seeing what's going on. I also, if you ever leave to go to the bathroom, I usually throw your drink away. I don't like when I'll give you a new drink when you come back. And a lot of people are like, hey, what'd you do with my drink? And I'm like, do not leave your drink unattended for not even 5 minutes. It's not a good look. Like,
How has the pandemic it's really hurt a lot of the service industry. Like I'm sure that it probably put a hurting in your pocket, right?
yeah, I mean, my bar closed down for 6 months during COVID. So, as of March 2020 on St. Patrick's Day, we were done. Doors were locked. And we all had a 6 month summer, I guess you would say, because when we came back, it kind of felt like coming back to college. It was like, hey guys, we all survived the pandemic. But yeah, it hurt a lot of business owners, I would say. Like the owners of my bar, they own the building, which helped a lot. They weren't consistently having to, pay that rent that they weren't receiving. But a lot of bars shut down in Raleigh, and I'm sure all over the United States. But it hurt a lot of us. We all had to find second jobs, maybe start doing Uber Eats, anything we really could until the bars opened back up. So
Have you ever all right, well, I got all types of questions. I told you that I prepared for this interview. So
yeah, it's okay.
what's the best holiday when it comes to tips?
Oh, St. Patrick's Day for sure.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Because, well, it's always funny. It's either St. Patrick's Day or Cinco de Mayo. Like
Yeah.
because it's funny. Americans, even though we're all immigrants, anyways, to this country, it's like would they just love to go out. Cinco de Mayo and St. Patrick's Day, they just love to get hammered. They just love to get beard up and everything. So I,
Oh
I
yeah.
could imagine. I could imagine that those would be two very popular days. Now, have you ever what does the future hold for you though? Like, you've learned all this. You started out as a hostess, you became a waitress, then a bartender. Do you see yourself one day owning your own establishment?
So I'm not quite sure yet. I mean, at one time that was the goal. I think it's a lot of bartenders' goals, and it still could be. I'm definitely would be into running my own establishment. I think I definitely have all the knowledge to do that. It's very stressful though. To own your own establishment, there's a lot of overhead. There's just a lot of things you have to think about. So it's, I would have to see if I want to go in that way. Part of me, eventually just wants to like have my time in the bar industry and then maybe move on to something else, maybe still guest bartending, maybe doing travel bartending, something different. Maybe, perfecting my skill a little bit more. But I've been in the industry for like 16 years now. So everybody's like, are you ever going to get out? And I'm like, it's hard to get out because I really enjoy it. It's
You're making
fun.
it seem like it's the mob or something like.
They never let you go.
All right, so I mean, we want people to buy the book. It's called Just the Tip. How can they find it?
Yeah, they can find it on Amazon. Just type in just the tip. It'll come up. You'll see it. Um, a picture of the girl holding money. And I think it's the only book that comes up unless you keep scrolling.
Yeah.
So definitely check it out. And honestly, it's been getting a lot of good reviews lately. It's really
Are you gonna
funny.
are you gonna do book on tape? Like
Yeah, I
audio?
am. I'm actually starting to record my Audible next week.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work.
I'm kind of dreading it, to be honest, because I think it's going to be a lot of work, but I'm excited for it.
All right, well, we want people to read the book, okay? But just give me a little taste. What is the most scandalous part of the book? Like, something that's, give me that one, juicy thing an example. You don't have to go into complete detail, but, kind of tease us a little bit. Give us just a tip.
Oh man, there's so many stories. So a lot of them are actually more on the funny side. Um, but I'll just give you like a general view. There's a lot of stories about, obviously, like you said, there's hookups in the industry. A lot of people, we're around each other 24/7. We're around each other till 3 a.m. Sometimes they're after shift drinks. So there's some pretty crazy stories in there, but maybe not so much of what I experienced personally, but what I've noticed going on around me. That and just basic, I even say this on the back of my book, basic human failing when alcohol is involved. I mean, all these stories are obviously people who have been drinking. So, I mean, you can imagine your worst story while drinking. It's probably in my book. So I would say, it's a lot of funny stories, but a lot of stories that you're going to be able to relate to and be like, oh my God, I was that person.
Will your boss get on you if you're too much of a heavy pourer? Because you being a heavy pourer is going to get you better tips, but you're also eating up the profits of the guy that's owning the establishment.
Yeah, we have a certain pour that we have to do, in the sense they audit our liquor. So every week, most bars do this. They weigh and scan bottles, and they see how many shots were sold to how many shots were actually received. But there are ways to pour a little heavy on some people, and then just pour normal on others. Just being in the industry, I've learned a lot of tricks with that. I don't think they would get mad so much. Obviously, we can't hook everybody up, but you just got to make sure you're not giving away the house either.
Have you ever, or any of the people you worked with, had like a guy that I hate to use the word stalker, but just somebody that was just infatuated with a certain bartender, and it became a problem? Like I don't know. It's just I could sit here and ask you questions all day long about it.
Oh, for sure. There's a lot of, yeah, we call them regulars. A lot of regulars are awesome. We love regular business. We love that you come in and you know us. There has been, I mean, my personal experience, I even have this going on right now. There's people that come in and yeah, they're there for you. I mean, they make comments where they want to take you out, even if you're like, I'm seeing somebody. They just won't give up, really. I don't know so much if I would say they were like stalking, or they're going to, take that further. Who knows? I don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely people become, they're into you. Like, I don't know if it's an infatuation with the way you look, or just because you're a nice bartender, or you pour their favorite drink. I'm not sure, but guys and girls behind the bar, you definitely have those a lot.
All right. Hey, Tanya, I really appreciate this interview. Once again, tell people the name of the book and where they can find it.
Yeah, so it's Just the Tip, from Tanya, my name, Tanya Fritch, on Amazon. And then you can also follow me on Instagram if you want to like see kind of behind the scenes of what I'm doing with my book and bartending. And that's just Tanya.Fritch, my first last name.
All right, Tanya. Hopefully you enjoyed this interview. Hopefully I didn't ask anything offensive or offend you at all.
No, not at all. I can't really get offended.
All right, Tanya, I hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you for the opportunity. I would love to catch up with you at a later date if you have any other good stories.
Yeah, I would love to do that.
All right. I congratulations on the book.